Welcome to West Coast Women Rising. I'm JJ Flizanes, your host today, and I have with me Money. Shantha Mony, what a great name! I was asking her about it because it looked like Shantha, it's Shantha, and her last name is Money. That's amazing to make it sound like that. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, JJ. Well, thank you for having me here.
I can't wait to talk about your business. I looked on your website and I immediately went, oh. Because Shanta does vacation and luxury travel. And as of the recording of this, I will be on a cruise in a week. And I cannot wait to be on the open sea. Normally, I don't like cruises, but after the last 6 months I've had, I can't wait to do nothing for 3 weeks. So I know that all of us who work really hard all need a vacation. So let's talk about how you got started in this business and when you started it.
Sure. Yeah, travel has always been in my blood. Ever since I graduated from college, I wanted to do something related to travel. So I went and did a lot of certification courses. Never really got into working there. This was way back in India. I'm originally from India. But then when we came to the US, I knew I wanted to do that, continue that passion here, but it just wasn't the right moment to start my company. Moving to a new country, having to set it up. So it just wasn't the right time. So I did take up a corporate job, but I still had that inkling in me that I needed to do something. So I did start my company 18 years ago as a part-time. I worked full-time, took care of my clients in the evenings and weekends, and went for quite a few years with that. But I still had that burning desire that I wasn't doing justice to both. I do needed to make a decision to step away from one of them. And of course, I stepped away from my corporate job, went head on, and it's been a wonderful journey since then. No looking back, have some amazing clients, and just growing my business day by day.
Let's talk about how long you have been a full-time entrepreneur.
For about 11 years.
Okay, so for 7 years, you did it
Yeah.
part-time. And what was your work-life balance like for those 7 years?
It was a struggle in the beginning. I was working 9 to 5, working there, but I would come home in the evenings. And you know what? While I was building my business, my clients were very aware of it, that I was available only on weekends and evenings. So I made it pretty transparent to them that I could help them. So I wasn't even thinking that I'm going to be missing out on something if I didn't take care of them in the mornings. So it's really being open and honest as what you are doing. And at that time, I think by then my kids were not young; they were older, so I was able to, they were off to college and things like that. So it was a little more easier than that.
So I have to ask the question because I'm not sure who's all listening to this podcast yet. I know that
Mhm.
we definitely have some people within the Ventura County Business Women group, and even within that group, not everyone's a full-time entrepreneur. There are people that are
Mhm.
part-time, or maybe people who are just getting started and wondering what they're going to be doing. And, when you take that leap, were you the person who had, like, did you save up for 3 to 6 months? How did you get started financially covering or being able to grow your business quickly to replace your corporate income?
I was fortunate enough; I wasn't the sole income owner. Bringing income to the family. So that was a little bit of a plus, but I still needed to save up. There were a lot of things that, when you start going full time, you need to take care of, like I couldn't do any networking while I was working full time because at that time, most of the networking was all during the daytime. So, that's when I kind of really put out my feelers, got more involved in the community, joined different events, joined different groups, and really grew it from them. And sometimes those do take money. So you do have to be prepared for all of that. But I always tell people, if that's your dream and you don't give up on it. Find some way to do it. There are different ways you can do it, but just find some method which works for you and continue doing that.
Great advice, definitely. So, what's been one of the most challenging parts of growing your business?
It's just the marketing, right? You're getting your word out there. You can't solely rely on just referrals. You do have to go out and see what's out there, put your feelers out there, and see what works best for you. One thing which works for somebody may not be the best one for you. So really look into what works best for you and your business. I did a lot of growth in different groups. mentors, joined mastermind groups and things like that, which does involve a financial commitment. But again, you got to weigh and see what can you give up to do that. Maybe it's not go to Starbucks every day. Maybe it's cut back on some of the things that you don't really need to have. So initially, it is a lot of giving up on things, but they're not really giving up on things that really are going to break your business. It's giving up on things that, socially you don't have to have.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a client of mine who did many programs this year, starting last year into this year. And one of the things, and she's a spreadsheet girl. She doesn't work for herself yet.
Mhm.
We're getting there. She works for corporate America, well, for a small mom and pop company though, but she does like architecture kind of things. And but she did self-growth programs. And at the end of it, I said, what would you tell people? And she said, go into debt for it. And I thought, and that was just for her own happiness and self-love. That wasn't even for business. And I was like, whoa, all right, Mandy. Okay. I mean, I love it. I'm like, yeah, because there's no price tag for happiness. But when it comes to your business, we only know what we know. And and we have to invest in it in an educational sense and an accountability sense, because, when we have desires to grow as business owners, we have to grow as people too. And we have to change our habits and our patterns and our behaviors. And that doesn't come, most of us don't do that on our own. We don't know what to do because you don't know, looking at yourself, what you need, because you can only see what you can see. Sometimes
Yeah,
it's really important that you are around other people who can see more for you and see paths and ways for you to do more of what you're doing. So I want to talk about your
definitely.
business because you're doing travel. And let me explain to everybody a little bit about the business and what makes unique and different. Within Ventura County Businesswomen, there are already, I've met, I think you're my third or fourth travel
Mhm.
agent. And I'll be honest, with all of the ways that we have to connect and get online and have things to figure out. I'm a planner, and I know not everyone's a planner. So, this day and age, I'm like, wow, okay, so what is the new role of a travel agent in today's climate with technology?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people ask me, why come with you? Why can't I just go and book it online? Can I do that? Studies have shown that it takes at least 50 plus hours of planning, or just a simple vacation. So we always ask them, what's your time worth? Are you willing to put that much of time to come up with something which may not be the best? Because we kind of know the ins and outs as a travel advisor. We personally visit some of the places, most of the places that I go to, I visit, or I have some of the agents who have done that. So the web is quite deceiving, as I'm sure everybody knows now, especially now with the AI and everything. What they say is not always there. So having that insider knowledge and also having the insider perks, we have connections to all the advisors, connections to people in the actual resorts who we can call and get in touch with. And what I tell my clients is I'm with you from the time we have our first consult and the time you come back. So if you're on a 10-day trip to Europe and you need something in your daytime, it may be in the middle of the night for me, I'll be there to help you. So that personal contact you're not going to have if you do it on your own or if you go to a big box agency and do that.
Like concierge service, like having
Yeah.
an assistant the entire time. You
Hmm.
become like the assistant. And I think for business owners, that might sit differently. If you are my assistant, or you're at least acting as my travel assistant, then you are paving the way for me. And I'm paying you like I would pay an assistant to take care of things for me, especially if you're investing in travel, which right now, I can't wait to go on my trip. So are there specific, I saw that on your website, you have all kinds of like packages, like romance packages. And can you talk a little bit about how you've put that together?
Yeah, so we are kind of specializing now in small ship cruising, expedition travel. So it could be a river cruise, could be one of the smaller ships. And cruising is a little different. You have the set packages from the cruise, but what we also do is we do add-ons and before and after. So if somebody wants to stay a few days before the cruise, go somewhere and stay there, or after the cruise, or even during the cruise, have private excursions and things which are outside of the cruise lines. So we take care of those. But if you're doing just say, for example, if you're doing a 10-day trip to Europe, you can come to me and say, these are the countries I want to go to, but I'm not sure what I want to do in those countries. Put together something for me. And based on your preferences and what you like, or what the whole family likes, we put together something which is perfect for everybody in the family. So that's what we do, and we take care of the flights, the air, the accommodations, the excursions, the transfers, train tickets if need be. So all the little components, we take care of those.
Yeah, I know a lot of people. If it was up to my guy, he would just delegate the whole thing. Luckily,
Mhm.
I'm the one that travels and I'm the one that plans everything just because he gets too overwhelmed and he's
Yeah.
not the planner that I am. But and many people aren't planners. And if they've never
Mhm.
been to a certain country, they need some help in knowing where to go and what's safe and what's not safe. And definitely having someone to call when there's an issue to
Mhm.
help and to be your advocate if need be is definitely valuable, very valuable.
Yeah.
So, what would be some of the tips you would have for people who are looking for, obviously you can work with anyone anywhere, right? You don't have to be in their space.
Right, right. Most of my clients, we just meet on Zoom or have some calls. I don't meet them in person, and they can be anywhere in the country. We do that. What we typically do is we'll have a first initial consultation, get to know their likes and dislikes, what type of places they like to stay, what they like to do, who's going, and then craft it around that and make as many changes as we need before we proceed with the package. And there, like you said, there are people who like to plan, but sometimes they don't have the time to do that.
Oh,
So,
right, right. I was sitting next to somebody at a meeting, what, last month, and a new travel agent, I think, younger, and at the Ventura County meeting, and
mhm,
she sort of started out in her business. So if you're listening, I forget her name. And she was very cute, but she kind of talked herself out of a job. And she said, well, I know everybody, I'm a travel agent, but I know you guys can do it online. I went, hold on. I said, you specialize in helping busy people create wonderful travel that they don't have to worry about. And she's like,
mhm,
oh, can I use that? I'm like, sure, you can use that. Right. Because again, with all of our ChatGPT and Airbnb and like there's just so many cheaptickets.com, whatever, people can put
mhm.
things together, but it's not the same experience, especially if you're not any good at it, which a lot of people
Right.
really aren't. And if you're going someplace new, you really want
Mhm.
some help. And if you value your time and you don't have time to plan, if it's 50 hours, you said to plan some travel, that's 50 hours you could be making money. It's
Yeah.
like it's the reason why I'll never clean my house. Sorry, I'm never cleaning my house. That is not a job. That is not my zone of genius. It's
Mhm.
not that it's beneath me. I have cleaned my house for sure when we moved in and like I'll clean this office and do projects. But why would I, when I can pay someone a fraction of what I could bring in the same hour, why wouldn't I have help? That's not a job that I'm good at. It's not a job I want. It's not a job I enjoy. And I'd much rather be doing this and getting paid to do
Right.
this and to make money that way. So think about that way when you're wanting to plan something and you're not a good planner and you really could just use some help making sense of maybe a new place or a new adventure if you want to go on a cruise and you've never have been, or what are some of the other, I know you said you specialize in sort of luxury and the cruise lines, but what other like resorts or destinations are you connected with?
Destinations about Italy, Europe, any of the countries in Europe, specifically, Portugal, Italy, France, UK, those countries that we put together packages for them. Africa is a big destination for us. In fact, I just got back from a 3-week African trip. So went and checked out some of the properties there and had some. So that's a great one. And then some of the like Machu Picchu, some of the expedition places, or it could even just be something closer. A Caribbean. We do the small yachts in Caribbean. We can do that. But aside from that, for the larger families, we always have the big ship cruising. We do that. It's just not on our marketing, but we have connections with all the cruise lines. So I'm not sure which one you're going on, but with the Royal Caribbean, Carnival, with all of them, we can put together packages. We've done a lot of multi-generational packages on cruise ships because that works perfectly for people. And then also for groups, mastermind groups on cruise ships are big. So we've done those as well.
One day I'll do a cruise
Mhm.
for a business. No, we're going on Princess.
Oh,
And
the
we
princess
actually
is great.
and we actually have used a travel agent. My partner's mother's 92 and her boyfriend's 93, and the only way to get them to California to our house was to agree because he doesn't fly. He hates
Uh-huh.
flying. But she'd come, but she doesn't want to leave him. So the deal was we had to go on a cruise. And he has his travel agent, so we're using his travel agent that he used
Yeah.
before. So and it's been a decent experience so far. I mean, I'm not in charge. I'm getting
Yeah.
this as a gift, which I'm
Mhm.
super thrilled about. I want to talk about the business though of travel agencies and
Mhm.
travel as a business. For those that are out there either doing it, and again, I've met several so far in Ventura County businesswomen, whether listening to the podcast or not, I don't know.
Mhm.
But when you want to grow your business, is it
Mhm.
do you scale by getting other agents, or is it just by getting more clients?
Right now, I haven't grown my agency outside our, there are three of us in our business. It's all in the family. I haven't grown out to other agents, but there are ways you could do it where you can grow, get agents under you and train them and do that. Maybe at some point I do, but I think at this point, with the type of clients, I like to keep them within the brand as of now. But you can scale if you somebody's looking to grow your agency. You can get agents under you. Like I said, train them, have them specialize in different niches, and then you don't have to give them referrals. It may be up to them to grow their business, but that way you have all the niches covered in your business. So that's a good way to grow that. But a lot of people don't, and right now I'm happy where I am.
Great. What has been the most effective kind of marketing for you?
Networking. Networking is really good. I've tried other things, ads and things like that. I have received some from that, but not as much of an ROI on those. In like magazine ads and things, not social media ads. But
I,
those work for some people. It just depends because those things are long term. You do have
mhm.
to consistently do it for a long period of time. But yeah, I may go into LinkedIn. I am on LinkedIn, and but I may go look into more into doing something there.
Okay. I'm guessing because you talked about masterminds before that you've either been in one or had a coach.
I do. I do currently have, and I've had them for a few, and they're kind of different, different areas of one is in marketing, one more is in the tech. So I do have mentors and part of mastermind group. I think you do need that. You do need to invest in that because you have to make money. You do have to invest in it. And like you said, something that we take for granted, somebody else from the outside looking in is going to pick it up just immediately and be able to coach you on that.
Right. And see things you can't see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, networking for certain businesses, and I'm guessing it's the know, like, and trust. If I have to know, like, and trust you before I'm gonna have you plan my travel. I noticed on your website though that I didn't see you on it. I saw it on your Facebook page, but is there any reason why you kept you off of your website?
I think it's under About Us. I am there. I guess I do need to put more pictures of me on the homepage. Yeah.
Well, maybe not
Um,
the homepage, but I think because I was looking for, in fact, I had to look on Facebook to
oh,
just
really?
connect with you
Okay.
because I want, and you have a blog, but your picture wasn't on your blog. So because yeah, I want to know who I'm dealing with. Who am I
Yeah.
talking to? I loved all your pictures. It's a gorgeous site with wonderful pictures that made me out like Tahiti. I'm like, oh, it's all very appealing. But then the next question is, who am I dealing with?
Yeah.
And I think that
I
there's
do.
a,
Yeah. Yeah. We're in the process of revamping our website. I will make sure I'm a little more prominent in those. Yeah. I
you and
do
your
work.
family, if you have any pictures of
Yeah.
your clients, right? And I
Right.
only say that because someone who's listening to this, I'm meeting you right now on Zoom. And if they're listening, they can't see you unless they
Mm-hmm.
try to find you. They go to your website. And it's nice to put a face to the name and
It
to
is.
into the voice and then to sort of feel the level of trust or, oh,
Mm-hmm.
this person would take good care of me. Before you decided to do this full time and you were in the corporate world, what did you do in the corporate world?
I worked for a health insurance company. So I was a director of their outsourcing department. So I did that for, gosh, 22 years.
And did you get into that as any specific passion about anything?
No, no, it was
No,
just around.
just
No, it
money.
wasn't. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, that's the path we walk. We do the smart thing. We get the job with the benefits and the
Mhm.
right and the 401(k) and we do all the smart things and we go, wait a minute, I don't love this. I
Right.
would like to do something that I love. So,
Yeah. It's exactly the same thing, right? You're right, because we had just come from India and I needed to get something was stable.
yep,
Had to put the kids through college. It wasn't the right time. So
right.
you have to take it and do what you have to do at that time.
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
When did you move from India? And was it to California to Ventura right away?
Yeah, no, we were in Yorba Linda for 6 months. That's where my family was. We came as a sponsor. My brother had sponsored us. And then my husband found a job here in Newbury Park, and that's when we moved after 6 months.
Nice.
Yeah.
And do you still have family in India?
I do have one sister, but there are six of us in our family. One sister's in India. There were, another sister we just lost a couple of years ago, but the others are all um, in California and Washington.
Okay, nice. I have desires to visit India one day. Um,
Beautiful.
but yeah, definitely. And fan of the food. Just had it like last night. And I can
Yeah.
cook and I can cook it too. Used to have a client who lived in Palos Verdes, Indian couple. He actually owned, I think it was either Champion or Viking, like the grill, like
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
stove in your kitchen.
Yeah.
And the wife had me come in to work with him a little bit, and then the wife made a cookbook. And so we did a trade back when I was a personal trainer, and I did her consultation for free, and she gave me a cooking class on
Oh,
how to
that's
make curry. So
yeah.
from scratch. And I was like, okay, I love that. But I also just love the idea of learning different cultures. And I'm sure that's probably why you love travel. It's the idea
Hmm.
between the food and the culture and the
Yeah.
landscape and the weather and the music and the colors and the way that just the
Mhm.
culture, it's so we're so in our bubble sometimes of
It
where we
is.
live.
Yeah, and I always encourage people also to take their kids when they're younger on trips. A lot of them don't do that because it opens their eyes so much to the different. And really, a lot of times it's just recognizing how privileged they are over here. And it's really a learning experience for all ages.
Definitely. What would be your top three favorite destinations for your clients?
Um, Africa, for sure. Galapagos Islands, that's another favorite of ours. And then anywhere in Europe. I love Europe. So
Me
we have a
too.
lot of clients who do that.
Yeah, me too. And I've heard great things about the Galapagos, but I never even put it on the list just because Italy is always the first on the list. Italy and
Yeah.
Greece are I like
Mhm.
once I do that enough and I get sick of it, don't know when that's going to happen. I'm like, then I'll go other places because I love it so much. I feel like I'm home because part of me is Greek and part of me is
Yeah, a
Italian.
lot of people do that. Yeah, I have a client they go every year, and every year she wants to go. One part of it has to be Italy. Second time, the second week can be somewhere else, but one week has to be in Italy.
Yep, that's how I'm feeling these days. We might be going next year to Sicily, and I said, well, we've got to go to Florence first. Have to
Yeah.
hit Florence on every Italy trip, and yes, but I love that there is at least, you have a wide range of things that you can offer from cruises to destinations to, like we just mentioned, I'm sure people want to have safaris when they go on their Africa trips. Yes?
Mhm. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So, if you could just let people know a little bit about the maybe the mission statement of your company. Obviously, it's to provide good service, but anything else you want to mention that people can get in touch with you and learn more about what you offer?
Yeah. I have a travel compass called, your for safe and enjoyable travel. So I'd like to, if people are interested, then they can just go to travelbyshantha.com, and I'll be happy to send that over to them. I also have a women's Facebook group. It's really women exploring the world together. So if anybody's interested, they can just go there and or go through the Travel by Shantha, and I'll add you onto the Facebook group as well. So that's more for women's doing small group trips. What I found is that a lot of people either don't have somebody travel or they don't, their partners don't want to travel. So it's a great way to get women together to travel.
Wow, yeah, my partner's daughter went on a singles cruise,
Hmm.
and men and women, and she had a blast. They
Yeah.
traveled for like maybe 10 days, 2 weeks, I don't know, around Europe, and they just had a blast. I thought, well, that's really fun. It was really brave of her to go, but I also think, yeah, getting a bunch of women together who want to travel because their partners want to stay home, that's amazing. I love that.
Mhm. Yeah. One other thing I'd really encourage people when they travel is do take travel insurance. A lot of people see it as added expense, but in the long run, it's such a big saving in the event that something happens. So always recommend that people travel with travel insurance.
Great. Yeah, we got it because Doug's mother's 92
Mhm.
and her boyfriend's 93. So when we booked it, They were 91 and 92, and we got the travel insurance. I said, okay, you guys have to stay alive. That's your only job, is to stay alive before we go on
Uh,
this cruise. But we
yeah.
also did an excursion. We only booked one excursion so far, for Maui,
Hmm.
and we got the travel insurance just in case, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see how that is a big money saver in the case that something happens. So,
Hmm.
any other travel tips that you have for everybody who's listening besides get the travel insurance, get the travel by Shantha.com, and that's going to have some other travel tips. Anything else you can share with us today?
One tip that I always talk about is, if you're planning, you got to schedule it on your calendar. It just doesn't happen. I'm going to go here and I'm going to do it. Just put that schedule, your vacation on your calendar, get it set, because otherwise something or the other is going to come up and it'll keep moving. Just schedule it like any other appointment that you have and then start building on that.
Yeah, just like your exercise, everyone. As the
Hmm.
former personal trainer, it's not just going to happen. You have to actually put it in the calendar as a regular date with yourself or whatever, exercise, meditation, downtime. So, well, thank you, Shantha. Anything else about your company that you want us to know before we leave today?
No, no, no. We're local in the Ventura County area, but like you said, we service everybody. I'd love to get in touch with people and just to connect. Even if you're not interested in travel, just love to connect and get to know y'all.
And it's luxurydestinationsconcierge.com.
That's correct.
Okay, all of her links will be in the show notes, everybody. Make sure to check her out. Connect with her on Facebook. If you're a woman who wants to travel and your husband doesn't or your partner doesn't, then get into the women's Facebook group. And no matter where you are in the world, whether you're in Ventura County or not, Shantha can help you. So I hope you'll check her out and enjoy your next vacation. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you so much.